Away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4 and say good morning to a former member of the Stephenville Town Council. That's Lenny Tiller. Good morning, Lenny. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
So you and I have been going back and forth here for a little while and been looking forward to having you on the program. We know that back on the 11th of January, you resigned from Stephenville Town Council. You know, some of it was to care for your aging grandparents, but you're also talking about the relationship between yourself and Mayor Tom Rose. Elaborate for us.
Yes, sir. Well, I'd like to start off, if I can, Paddy, just giving you a little bit of background on myself, because the mayor has, in my opinion, in the media over the last week or so, had 5 or 6 different reasons why I left and can't seem to make up his mind. So I'll give you a little background. For 4 years, I lived in Fort McMurray. While I was there, I worked in oil and gas, doing payroll and finance stuff, worked with safety departments, commonly worked with boards. I was on the district association at Brian Jean, who then was the leader of the Wild Rose Party. I was president of the Bay St. George Student Union campus for 2 years. 1 year provincially, went to Ottawa, went to Canada and Gatineau, fought for the oil and gas students that we had, and really put the province forward. I'm used to dealing with rules of procedure and how to act in these meetings. I was second vice president of the Lions Club locally. I'm a member of the Regional Western Service Board. Politics and procedure and how to act in a professional setting is something that's not new to me. I'm not just some guy that was elected off the street, as sometimes the mayor would allude to as, oh, well, the 3 young people left council. But it was certainly the dynamic he had set up most of the time, because there was always, he's the senior, and not just him, there was other members, but he would speak on their behalf. There was a senior council and a junior council, and it seemed like the senior council knew it all and should know it all, and we should be there to listen. And when I started speaking up in February of 2022, I believe it was, surrounding questions on the airport in a public meeting, well, shortly after that meeting, which was 2 or 3 days later, council actually called a meeting. And the whole sole purpose of that meeting was to try to correct me doing my role as a councillor. It didn't make any sense. One councillor stood up for me and said, this meeting doesn't make sense. But the rest of them got to go around the table one by one and take shots for speaking out publicly on what at the time didn't make any sense. Why was the airport being advertised as owned by the purchaser, but the town was trying to give taxpayer dollars to an airport that they said they didn't own anymore?
So when the mayor refutes your claims, saying that you just simply didn't like being a councillor, so give us some examples of specifics about how you felt bullied or taunted by Mayor Rose or anybody else on council.
Sure. So to his comment, Paddy, I loved representing the people of Stephenville. We have some of the greatest residents, and I'm sure you hear everybody say this, but we do. We have some engaged, active residents who care about their community that felt that they weren't being heard. And I was trying to bring their voice to the forefront, whether it be in committee or public meeting. There was lots of times where the mayor would actually utter the term, you're just a junior councillor. I've been here longer. I've never been questioned in this capacity. Why are you questioning me now? Things like expenses that were not pre-approved, and the Municipalities Act is pretty clear. Pre-approved expenses by the council are okay. The mayor doesn't get an expense account. He's no different than anybody else. But there was always a dynamic where the mayor and a few other members of council that were close to the mayor would know all the information, and the 3 new ones or the 4 new ones would be left out of knowing what that was going on. Then we have to make decisions. There were many times when, I'll give you the latest example. We were in the last meeting I attended, was a committee meeting, and he told me that I wasn't supposed to go against the finance committee because I was on the finance committee. And I would say, well, I don't agree with the committee's recommendation, and I'm going to say it publicly. And he would try to intimidate you and belittle you into, well, you have no choice. You're on this committee. You have to agree. Well, when I put my name on the ballot, there wasn't junior councillor position that I ran for. I ran to be a councillor at the town of Stephenville. He put me on the finance committee. I didn't ask to be on the finance committee. But when I got elected to politics, it was to be the voice of the people, and that's what I tried to do. There were times that I had lifelong relationships with former mayors and councillors of the town of Stephenville, and I would go to meetings, and the comments would be made, well, you're just speaking on behalf of your buddies. There's no way you can know this. You're speaking on behalf of them. You don't have your own voice. And, Paddy, it wasn't just me as a councillor. I can't speak for the other two of why they left. But the staff at the town has been treated this way as well. And I would, it is my perception and my feeling that we are at the point now that occupational health and safety should seriously look at going into the town and not just interviewing current employees, but also former employees. We've lost 3 CAOs in over 2 years. We've lost a manager of I believe it was Public Works, who's now working for the city of St. John's. There's numerous times where staff are so upset that they have to go on sick leave because of the way things are being managed. Most of the fights we had was over process, following a process. Process is what makes any organization work in a collective and collaborative effort. And that process has gone to the wayside for some reason to just complete anarchy.
Lenny, do you think that the root of all of this is the fact that the mayor was on the Airport Authority board? You had voted against transfer of town cash for operating purposes to the Airport Authority in Stephenville. And then, of course, Mayor Rose was absolutely all in with Carl Diamond right off the get-go. So with your voting against that transfer of money, and whether it be back to the initial issue regarding those 3 parcels of land between the Stephenville Airport Corporation and World Energy GH2 and some of the confusing public commentary that came from that. So it is as simple as that. When those issues came to bear, then all of a sudden you became a junior councillor. You became a problem.
100%. If you were either all in or you were all out. There was never a concession. From my perspective now, Paddy, someone else might tell you something different. From my perspective, you were either in or you were out. You either liked the idea or you didn't. And the biggest issue for the residents of the town of Stephenville that I've heard from was, who does the mayor represent today? Is he the mayor of the town? Is he the spokesperson for the purchaser? Or is he the spokesperson for the airport? And when those lines got blurred, they got blurred a lot. And you could even hear commentary in public meetings or go back through media reports where you didn't really understand in a moment where his interest was lying. I'm sure the mayor, and I've seen the greatest side of Tom Rose, where he would give you the shirt off his back, where he'd stop everything he was doing and load up his truck with wood and give it to seniors. But I've also seen this other side when you're not all in, as he said in that article, the official opposition of council. Well, we all know politics, Paddy. We all see the House of Assembly. We all see the House of Commons. If we don't ask the questions for the people, we do not have a democracy anymore. The whole premise of democracy is to ask questions, to be able to oppose, to try to make something better. If we're all just going to sit there and agree 100% of the time, we are not going to get the best outcome for the residents of Stephenville. We're not going to create the best dynamic for the staff, because the staff at the town is not going to know what to do, and they're not going to feel comfortable. They're not going to know from day to day if they go to work if they're doing their job correctly, because they're not. How do I say it? They're so nervous about what's coming next or what's going to happen. A lot of them are fearful when they're doing their job, and then they're making mistakes. The town has some of the greatest staff I've ever seen and ever had the pleasure to work alongside with. Smart, intelligent staff. And I can tell you, Paddy, although they can't come out and speak publicly, I'll speak for them. They are nervous. They are scared. They do feel like they're being mistreated. They're stressed to the max, and it's not just about there's not being enough staff, as they're not being treated properly. Because when they put opposition up, they're bullied and intimidated as well.
Lenny, this is, maybe a bit of crystal ball kind of stuff, but there's rightful cynicism and skepticism out there about the future of the airport, because it's been an awful long time. Some extremely lofty promises have been made, very little traction up to this point, versus simply changing the name of the airport, dealing with some past liabilities and what have you. So what do you think happens next?
Well, I hope the purchaser succeeds in his efforts. The commentary that has come out about the naysayers and the public is ludicrous. Because at the end of the day, nobody told the purchaser to offer and promise what he promised.
No.
That was on him. That was on the mayor supporting those comments. I hope he can do it. I hope in 20 years there are drones flying around Stephenville and there are commercial flights. I hope everything that he wants he can do. But right now there's no evidence of it. Over the past 2 years it's been promise after promise after promise, and nothing has come to fruition that we know of as a council. I do think and feel that the mayor knows more than he lets on to council about, but I can't really speak to that.
Fair enough.
I do know that the premise of this, whether it would have made a difference to council or not, was every debate we had on the airport was, well, we want to get it off our books. Yes, but we never followed the process. There was enough public money, Paddy, put into that airport over the years that the logical thing to do would have been to follow the disposal of assets that the town follows. So although the town didn't own it and it was an extension, we had effective control of what they did because we were controlling the money.
Yeah.
So we had the control and could have said, you're going to follow our disposal of assets process. This is going to go out to an RFP. The airport was never for sale. This was, I want to buy your airport, send a few emails to government, and everybody jumped on board. In a town, if somebody comes and says, we want to buy the industrial facility or land, we have an obligation as a municipality to put that out to the public and say, we have interest in this land. We're going to put it up for request for proposal because we might be interested in selling or leasing it. The same thing should have happened to the airport because it was the taxpayers' dollars put into it.
It goes back to your comments about process. Just for purposes of clarity for the pending news story to be written in our newsroom, what were you saying about bringing in occupational health and safety?
I think we're at the point now, Paddy, where we've gone beyond just a regular political debate and making decisions as a council and the job of council and staff. I think we've gone beyond the point now where we've actually crossed that line, or the council has crossed that line. The staff needs help. They don't know an avenue to go to. And I really do think that we are at a point now where there needs to be an investigation for bullying and harassment and intimidation, either on all the council, the mayor, whoever. Just go in and be able to talk to the staff and let them know that somebody is listening, somebody cares, and to see what comes out of it. And if there is a finding that something is happening, then we can correct the behaviors that are happening. I'm not going to say the mayor needs to be removed. I'm not going to say he doesn't have the best interest of town at heart, because I think in his own way he may. But I do think occupational health and safety should go into that town, interview the employees, interview the people that have left, to see what the culture is like, because it's my perception right now that it is very toxic, and it has continued since I left on January 11th.
Lenny, I really appreciate the time. I'm late for the news, but thanks for this and your candor.
Thank you so much, Paddy.
Take care. Stay in touch.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Former Town Councillor Stephenville, Lenny Tiller. Break time. Talk away.